on that later on in today's show. Dan Strafford, Eric McPherson, you know him better as your old pal Emac. We are with you on this Monday morning edition of the Early Bird. Emac, how the hell are you doing?
Dan, we have one heck of a holiday week shaping up here. It is beyond belief. We've got a 9-gamer today for NBA. So that's the first thing, but it's Thanksgiving, so of course that means 3 games on Thursday for the NFL. That's going to be the traditional Detroit and Dallas hosting the early games, and then the night game is New Orleans at Atlanta. So we're going to have plenty of offensive opportunity.
Just not Julio Jones. So it's fine.
Yeah, well, and it may take the last drive for Kamara to get there a little bit. He was kind of a mess on Sunday, and then hey, Christian McCaffrey, goodness gracious, he gets multiple touchdowns and just does what he does best. But we've got Chicago at Detroit, Buffalo at Dallas, New Orleans, Atlanta. That's going to be fun. Of course, we still have Monday Night Football, so you get the early bird or the live before lock at 7:30 Monday night. Hockey is getting into it. There's a 9-gamer on Tuesday, 9-gamer on Monday, 3 on Tuesday, 13 on Wednesday, a ceremonial game on Thursday, another 13 on Friday, with the bulk of them going off at 4 o'clock. So that'll be a fun main slate there when everybody's at home. And then another 13 on Saturday, most of them going off at 7. And then NBA, not to be outdone, has a wildly imbalanced schedule. The 9 we have, is it 9 or 1, 2?
It's 11.
Oh, God, it's 11.
Yeah.
11 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday. Literally everybody but 2 teams. I didn't go figure out which 2, but there are 14 games on Wednesday, none on Thursday. And then there's a nooner on Friday, Boston at Brooklyn. And then we've got, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, it looks like about 11 games on Friday. And then randomly on Saturday, there's a 5 o'clock, a 7 o'clock, and 2 8 o'clocks. So
I mean, who the big question out of all this, Emac, is who doesn't like a good nooner, right? I mean,
I know, skyrockets in flight, baby.
There it is. We are going to go through position by position. We're going to give you the early bird, the first take on this slate. And of course, as Emac laid out there, tons of content also coming your way. That includes the NBA strategy show on Monday morning. Then you get the Deep Bird Dive at 5 p.m., live before lock, 6 p.m. Then, as Emac said, the Monday Night Football rolls on there as well with live before lock for the football side. But all that's in front of the paywall. Make sure you like and subscribe over on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast side, do the same, comment, do all those things there. And then for you subscribers, all the content's available behind the paywall. So you get projections, ownership projections, you get the lineup builder, you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Thank you, Fantasy Cruncher, as always. And then we can move on from there. So we're going to dive in. We're going to give you some first takes here on this slate. And point guard is deep as always, but not as necessarily expensive as Houston is not on this slate. So we don't have Harden and Westbrook at the top end. You have LeBron, who maybe we can save for small forward, Trae Young, Dame Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, CJ McCollum, 8,300. Lillard is back, so his price has come up, but may not be nearly as worth it because Lillard back in that backcourt for the Portland Trailblazers there. Spencer Dinwiddie still seeing his price rise. He's at 7,600 as he continues to play for the injured Kyrie Irving. Then we get into the mid-tier. We can talk about them momentarily. Anybody at the top end stand out here, Emac, as good matchup, good value, and somebody you think this early on you may be looking to play?
Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting. Just 2 teams on a back-to-back. Sacramento, who played in Washington and took down the Wizards on Sunday evening. They just played 9 players. The bench didn't play a ton. Hield was 36. Corey Joseph was a little dinged up, but he played 36. Harrison Barnes 35, Rashawn Holmes 35, and Bjelica 29. So I expect those guys to more or less carry the water the next night. Off the bench, you had Bogdan Bogdanovic, who was in for 28. I just point that out because those would be some of the guys we might want to look at at the other positions. And then Brooklyn, most of their starters played in the mid-30s. They do not have Kyrie Irving with them. He is going to miss the 8th of, I believe, 9 games against former teams. He is not playing against Cleveland. I don't know that he's actually played against. He hasn't played against Boston, and he only played when he was with Boston. He played against Cleveland one time in those 2 years there. Yikes! He doesn't like to play his former team.
He fears the revenge. It's fine.
Yeah, it reminds me of Rajon Rondo, who didn't really. He finds all sorts of dinged up excuses to not play against the many teams that he has formerly played for. So I'm dodging the question, but here it goes. Dinwiddie and Fred VanVleet, but they're both the shooting guard eligible, so I'm going to set them aside for there. We have Malcolm Brogdon coming back. This is interesting. He's missed 7 or 8 games. He is 6,000 on DraftKings. That's going to be a decision point because we don't know yet how many minutes he's going to play. He's been dealing with the sore back. And then you've got over on FanDuel, he's 8,500 and he is 3,500 or $35 on Yahoo. So right away, he is the one guy that really stands out to me as someone on DraftKings in particular, and of course Fantasy Draft at 6,000. So we'll want to keep our ear to the ground. Oh, I'm sorry, I got confused. He missed 3 games, was partially hurt in one of them 4. They got a lot of people that were hurt, but Jeremy Lamb's back. Who knows? TJ McConnell missed 2 games, but he's back and healthy, and they got their front court back. So minutes, we don't really know what's going to happen. That'll be fun to see what Adam and Lofty and Josh come up with that. But that $6,000 price point, he's going to be on everybody's radar at first. I like Zach LaVine, who sort of got benched in game. Had a few words for his coach, and then the next game decided that he was going to be phenomenal. And he actually carried the team to a victory. He had 49 NBA points. He made 13 3-pointers. 3 total players have made 13. Steph, Clay, and him in an NBA game. So rarefied air there. He's 7,500 going against Portland. We know Portland's a little bit of a mess because Lillard was a bit dinged up, and they should have Hassan Whiteside back, but they also have Carmelo Anthony. So Portland is someone I'm willing to attack until they figure out what they're going to do with their defense. So I like those guys. They're coming down the pricing list if we start looking for point per dollar guys. And we have a ton of options here. And news is going to set all this stuff on its ear, so we don't want to spend a ton of time on this. But I think Trae Young is someone that worth paying up for against Minnesota. We haven't seen Minnesota on a couple slates because they've played early and or been on short slates, but they are playing faster, sort of getting healthy again. But Young going against them at 9,800, that feels like a fair price point. 97 on FanDuel, that's even better, and 44 on Yahoo. I really like that. He's someone that can get 55, 60 fantasy points against anyone. Early scrubs type, or not scrubs, other mid-tier type plays. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 6,700 going against Golden State. Golden State, I think you and I are somewhere on a list that they may get a phone call if a few more guys get hurt, Dan. They are in dire straits. So we want to target guys against them. But that's the point guard position. The value will appear with 22 teams in action. So just hitting the notable guys right now.
The name, you actually mentioned him in passing about the revenge narrative, would be Rajon Rondo for me. If he's starting and getting a projected 24 to 26 minutes, this matchup with San Antonio, I think, is more than a legitimate one to exploit at this point. San Antonio's defense has been putrid on the year. This is not typical of Greg Popovich-led teams. So someone like a Rondo at 5,100 or whatever the price point they're in, 5,200 on DraftKings. We'll check the Yahoo and FanDuel prices momentarily, but Rondo stood out to me at first glance and first pass on this slate. Over on, let's see, on Yahoo, he's $15. So not near minimum, but close enough to it that maybe he saves you some dollars on there with a potential.
And it was good to see he played in the back-to-back. So he played. Yep. So he's played 3 and 4, 27 minutes, got a day off. And then, or I guess that was not quite 3 and 5, 2 days off, played 18 minutes, but then the next night came back with 26 and had his best game of the season against Memphis. So that's good to see because I was following along on my phone, and 2 different times it looked like he came in when LeBron was going out. It was like, okay, I guess Rondo's going to be running the offense now.
Yep, and which is what you like to see that. You like to see the ball in his hands, not have LeBron on the court and get in the way of him facilitating a little bit. So I will be on Rondo on Monday. Obviously, news be damned. That could come out. Shooting guard is up next. Made mention of the likes of Mitchell and McCollum over at point guard, just simply from an eligibility standpoint. You have Van Vliet and Dinwiddie, who you also said we talk about here. Wiggins, Levine, but he healed is 7,100. You do have Gilgeous-Alexander, who you just mentioned, and then the cavalcade of broken stars over there for Golden State. You have the likes of Alec Burks, who's now all the way up to $6,400. I don't know if that's something I can stomach or not, but what do you like at shooting guard? Is the likes of a Van Vliet or a Spencer Dinwiddie in your plans?
Yeah, it's Van Vliet you can still go to, and hey, I have to in the Fred Van Vliet fan club. We had a three-way tie for victories, so we had three different people won 30 free days there on Osmo because they were all sporting the Osmo avatar. Check out my
what's going on? You got a nooner, a three-way? I'm starting to question the podcast here.
There we go. I've been doing too many shows with Eddie all weekend, so
all right.
He's got that. Never ask Eddie to show you what's on his desk when he's on air. There are frightening things that are there. But in any event, High Family sponsored Yahoo. Fred Van Vliet, somebody that is just getting a ton of minutes. He's playing the second most minutes in the league right now. You could say he's part of a Portland sandwich. On either side, it's CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. We're running this one too late, Dan, because I'm about ready to go to sleep. So I'm not. This is like a fever dream right now. But in any event, he's going to get a ton of minutes. We know Lowry's still out, and even if Ibaka does come back, that's not going to impact Van Vliet in any sort of way. So even at $8,000, we should see less of the herd going to him. But I like him. He has a very solid floor. He doesn't really have much more than 50, 55 fantasy point upside, but it's hard to see him not getting 40 fantasy points when he's playing damn near 40 minutes a game every game. So I like him. I think Spencer Dinwiddie on the back-to-back, he has about a 35% usage rate when Karis LeVert and Kyrie Irving are off the floor. His assist rate doubles when Kyrie's off the floor. LeVert doesn't have a ton of real impact on him. It's like 33% when LeVert's still on the floor. So even with just Kyrie off, but he's someone we can continue to go to. He's going to have to play the minutes because Brooklyn needs to bank some wins, and this is definitely one they can get to against Cleveland in the hopes that when Kyrie comes back, they are in the playoff hunt. We mentioned Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not really excited about the Sacramento guys against Boston per se. Boston just still plays decent defense, and they're priced up just enough off that back-to-back. I don't really want to go there, but Alec Burks I think is fine against Oklahoma City. 6,400 on DK, 59 on FanDuel, and 22 on Yahoo. Look, he can get it done. He's been rebounding a little bit better. We know he's a solid shooter, and he was fine in his time with the Jazz. They just didn't really play fast enough, and it turns out it looks like he does much better in an up-tempo game. Surprise, surprise. And he's, one of 3 NBA caliber players that's not a G League caliber that's going to be getting a heavy court time there for the Warriors. So those would be the guys I would look to. Shooting guard, it's hard to try to find value because there's a ton of it, and it just all depends on who's in or who's out for these guys.
Yeah, to your point, exact number there on Dinwiddie's usage is 35.7 with Kyrie off the floor, Kyrie and LeVert, to your exact point. But a nice robust number there for Spencer Dinwiddie. I'll be honest, I've stayed away simply because of the price point, but the usage is there. Matchup is pretty decent in this spot, one that he should be able to exploit and one that should have some upside. I will also admit, Alec Burks scares the hell out of me at 6,400, but to your point, there is only so many players to take shots, and there are only so many players to score baskets.
Golden State's going to score 100 points. Right. Someone's got to put the proverbial biscuit in the basket.
Yeah, they are. Where are they pace-wise? They're down, right? Yeah, they're 15th on the year thus far, but still, this is a team that does not have any talent at all, so they're playing at a bit of an increased pace. Oklahoma City on the year is right around the same spot, 19 in the league, 100.97 when it comes to pace on the season. Let's continue. Well, I do want to take a second here and remind you all that Yahoo DFS has their 25K baller It is a $10 entry fee, 12% management fee, 5K to first place. I remind everyone every time doing this podcast, Mac, I know you do the same. If you're looking to build a bankroll, you're looking to play a little bit of a different game, Yahoo is a good place to do that. We have tons of content available for it, but even beyond that, it is just a less shark-infested waters. It is also a place that has lower management fees on a typical slate, and they do have some bigger prize pools for NFL as well, so you want to stay tuned for that. So check that out. Make sure you are over at Yahoo DFS, and you can follow the links typically in Emacs write-up for Yahoo NFL, depending on the slate, Yahoo NBA, on how to sign up as well and get some Yahoo, was it sports reward points? Is that, am I getting that right?
YSRPs, Yahoo Sports Reward Points.
There you go. So you can get some usurps in your life and get some free money to play with. So let's continue on to small forward. I've been very proud of myself this season, Emac. I haven't said let's move forward to small forward yet, but that will come at some point when I'm very, very tired and do not know what I'm saying anymore. Small forward Giannis Antetokounmpo is 11.8. LeBron James 11.2. Jonathan Isaac is your third most expensive small forward. Listen, the NBA comes at you fast and furious, and here we are with Mr. Isaac as your third most expensive. Jimmy Butler, 77. DeRozan, 77 as well. Wiggins, Simmons, and we go on from there. I guess up top, the easiest way to attack this is the two most expensive guys, LeBron, Giannis. Is this a slate where you want to exploit them and have them in your lineups straight away? Or is this going to be a struggle to get to these two guys on such a big slate?
We should be able to get there because of the value. Giannis, of course, he's not quite as enticing because he's going against Utah, and he's 11.8 on DK, 12.5 on FanDuel, 58 on Yahoo. So with that all said, he's probably going to be on about 10% of all rosters, maybe. So he's someone that if Rudy Gobert is out, that changes the complexion of how Utah plays. There's nobody in the middle, and they are forced to play a little more up tempo, especially against a team like the Bucks. So that one is a situation to watch. And then Utah is on the road, so we see more often than not home teams tend to dictate the pace a little bit more. Generally, they're the ones not traveling, they're not staying in a hotel, they're not flying, blah blah blah. But Utah on the road is entirely different than Utah at home. People forget that Utah's second highest elevation. It's like 1,500 feet below where Denver is. So it's the second toughest place to play, basically, in the league. And I think people, even now that we talk about this stuff all the time for daily fantasy sports, they forget that it is that elevation there. But when they're on the road, it's like when the Mariners go on the road or Colorado goes on the road. When you come from these extreme ballparks, things change a lot, and the algorithms don't always take that into effect. So keep that one in mind as we're looking at it. But for me, I guess we have to consider LeBron. He is going against San Antonio. By the way, San Antonio, not good this season. They are playing faster than they have in a while. They are playing worse defense than they have in a while. And they have lost 8 of their last 9 games. They beat New York on Saturday, but they had lost 8 games in a row. Dan, do you know the last time they lost at least 7 games in a row?
The Spurs?
The Spurs.
I will say, I don't know off the top of my head, but I will say it was 2008.
1997.
I almost went to the 90s because I was thinking through 99 they won the championship right against the Knicks. Yeah, I should have gone.
But point being, holy hell, 20 years since we'd seen that. It is just crazy. So they're
27th in defensive rating on the year, 113.1.
Pop can't even do it with smoke and mirrors at this point. It's not happening.
Well, when you have Aldridge, I mean, I love LaMarcus Aldridge as an NBA player, but he has not been the same defensive player this year. It's all bad now for them. Yeah. So
DeJounte Murray can only stem the tide so much. So I would like to get to LeBron if possible. This feels like the way things are breaking down. Jimmy Butler on DraftKings is one heck of a bargain at 7,700. He's 96 on FanDuel, 39 on Yahoo. Now he's shooting guard on FanDuel and small forward on Yahoo, but plays both positions on DraftKings. That is a phenomenal price point. Jason Tatum at 69 is very nice going against Sacramento. I will take Boston going against Sacramento there. Now Sacramento playing slow, one of the slowest paces, but right now the one thing you want to be careful is when you understand what the pace is. It's about right now. It's about 10 or 11 possessions per 48 minutes, so per game, that are separating the fastest paced team and the slowest paced team. So really, if unless you're in bottom 5 or top 5, it's all kind of going to come out in the wash, but things can really slow down if it's 2 in the bottom 10 or 2 in the top 10. You can see things speed up or slow down more than they would with just saying, oh, it's a pace up spot. Well, yeah, it is, but a lot of the team, half the teams playing Washington Washington plays at 5 extra possessions per game. That's more, but it's not a lot more because the teams are all playing so much faster. It's closer together this year than we've seen in a while. Bojan Bogdanovic, and Buddy Hield now, as I mentioned, against Boston, but to bring myself back, Jaylen Brown I think is interesting without Kyrie, along with Jason Tatum, and then cheaper guys that we can look to. We'll want to see who's available for Minnesota. They've had a couple guys that have been out that we don't know if they're going to be back. So Treveon Graham, Josh Okogie, Shabazz Napier, all are questionable. Napier trending towards doubtful or out yet again with this hamstring injury. If those guys are all out, Covington is very interesting at 5,900 going against Atlanta. And then down at the bottom, you'll want to start looking at guys like Terrence Ross, and some of the other Orlando players, because we will be without Nikolai Vucevic and Aaron Gordon for another 10 days or so.
Yeah, that's where Isaac's price point has come up so significantly because of those injuries, and we'll get to some more of that in power forward and center, of course. At power forward, AD is 9,700. Pascal Siakam is 9,200. Sabonis, Isaac, Love has a Q tag. Is that actually questionable?
Well, he didn't play on the back-to-back. He had a sore back, and he's missed 2 games this year. Both of them were back-to-back games.
Love's the sort of guy who I think can open up this little bit. I was looking at Chetty Osman a bit. I think that if Love is out, it just opens up some potential value at multiple positions for Cleveland in a game that should see some definite scoring, as it were. So keep an eye on that one. What do you like at power forward? Anybody stand out?
So if Kevin Love plays, I do like him. I think this is Cleveland tanking. It was a back-to-back, whatever. I had thought that they were going to let him show out against Portland because I think Portland should trade for him because, he grew up in Oregon and yada, yada, yada. And they need him, but that may not come to fruition. Danilo Gallinari, didn't quite hit on him at small forward, but his price really stands out when you're looking at the power forwards here. There was a whole pass on DraftKings of $7,000 to $8,000 players. Now on power forward, some of these other guys that were at small forward are falling out, where we can see them, but 5,900 against Golden State, I like that. Rashawn Holmes has been interesting. They're going to need him against Boston's front court, and he is kind of a unique center. This is from The Ringer, and they had an article they did one question from all 30 teams, and they had some interesting points about how Rashawn Holmes does the things that Luke Walton wants from a center, doesn't look for his shot, willing to set screens, willing to take the easy bunnies and all that, but if it's not, they don't run design plays for him and all that, and he's the guy that can all of a sudden you look up and in the third quarter he's got a double-double. And you don't even notice it, and he does the dirty work, so he stays on the court a lot longer. I thought it was going to be Dwayne Dedmon for sure in that role, and it's not. So I think he is someone that we need to reevaluate what we think of him. This is not the guy that was coming off the bench in Philly, and it's not the guy that would pop for 40 fantasy points when Cleveland or when Phoenix was tanking the last couple years, but he's someone that actually is a legitimately decent player in today's NBA. So he's someone we should look at. And then down at the bottom, I don't know what to do with guys like Miles Bridges, Taurean Prince, etc. They're the kind of guys that can go for 35, 40 fantasy points or 17. that's a problem. So we'll have to see who's out, what matchups are in, and it's not just who's out from their own team, who's out from the other teams, what style are some of these teams going to have to play on offense, etc., etc.
I'm going to say I'm very happy to see that Lauri Markkanen's minutes are trending downward, simply so I don't have to play him nearly as much as I've been playing him over the past couple of weeks. But if he gets 35 minutes, who knows, Mac? He could do it. It could be the slate. It could happen. It could happen.
No more backup center minutes.
But there we are.
Don't get caught watching the paint dry, as they said in Hoosiers.
He has had a very rough season. Center. Let's talk center and close it out.
If we could get to Karl Anthony Towns, I think he's the most expensive guy that I like the best of all of our top shelf options.
Yep. Makes a ton of sense. I mean, this is a plus matchup and has all of the makings of a potential triple-double for Cat, and 10-4 isn't that insane a price point for the potential upside here. I'd be very intrigued by his ownership on Friday. 11-game slate. Maybe it flattens it out a little bit. But he should have a ton of it against Atlanta with very few front court bodies that can do much damage to someone like Karl Anthony Towns. So 10-4 feels like more than a legitimate price point to play him. You have center-only eligible guys we haven't talked about: Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond. You did mention Gobert with that Q tag. That's a huge Q tag. I think you made the great point about Giannis before, but simply also the top end of the position here loses a big name at 8,600. Gobert doesn't go up and put up a ton of points, but does put up some decent DFS totals for you. We'll point out Tristan Thompson. Seems like a pretty good play here at 6,800. But what do you got, Mac? Who do you like at center?
Yeah, I mean, I guess those guys, Joel Embiid on DK at 88 kind of stands out. He's 10-2 on FanDuel, 44 on Yahoo. So it looks like DK's relaxing some of, not all, but some of the prices with a few guys here and there. But he's one of the ones that stands out. Andre Drummond going against Orlando, they do not have anybody who can guard him. We got to see a little time at the 5 for Jonathan Isaac. If Orlando wants to go that route, it's going to have to be when Drummond is not on the court. I actually, even at 8,700, I don't mind if Blake Griffin plays, and he should play in this one. He just is not playing on back-to-backs, it looks like, which makes sense since they're easing him back in. But I'm okay with Drummond at that price on DraftKings. Not so much at 51 on Yahoo, because you really only have two center spots there, the utility and the center, and then just center only on FanDuel. It's a little harder to give him up. Doesn't quite get the blocks that I would want for the on those sites where it's three points per block, and he doesn't get the double bonus, which makes him more appealing on DraftKings. Pascal Siakam, it'll be interesting to see him go against fellow Cameroonian Joel Embiid. Just want to throw that out there, countrymen. There are 3 Cameroonians in the NBA. Can you name third who has not played this year, by the way?
It's not Boomche?
Nope. Luc Richard Mbah a Moute.
Oh, all right.
He was the original, everyone's favorite Cameroonian, and when he was the only one, he was everyone's favorite. Now, he's the original. He's not everyone's favorite because those other guys are pretty darn good. I think if we're looking to save guys like Jonas Valanciunas going against the front court, the sizable front court there of Indiana that doesn't really like to play defense, 59 on DK, 69 on FanDuel. I'm good with both those. Just 20 on Yahoo. So I think he's a good deal across the 3 sites there. And then let's see, are there any super cheapies? Let me filter by dollar amount. Hassan Whiteside should be back. He's going against Chicago. He's missed a couple games there. 61 on DK is worth taking a chance. 81 on FanDuel, 30 on Yahoo. No thank you. But what the heck do we do with Willie Cauley-Stein? Probably played 26 to 28 minutes. He's 46 on DK, 57 on FanDuel, and 16 going against Steven Adams. But this is not the same fierce Steven Adams. This is Steven Adams that is battle weary and looking hobbled. He's only like 20. Adam was saying he's like 27 or something like that. You think he's older, but
Steven Adams.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. I will say the fact that you're not predicting some sort of crazy Christian Wood line here against Orlando is disappointing to me. It's almost shades of old Hassan Whiteside from Wood. 2 games ago.
Adams is 26.
Wow.
Okay. I knew it was young.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
See what tattoos do to you? No, just kidding.
And he was
The
born in
fact of the matter is,
July 10th, so I mean he's still got a ways to go.
I will also point out that and Ruben Boomshay was the original Cameroonian in the NBA,
I
but
stand corrected. Thank you.
though apparently, and I never knew DJ Strawberry played in the
Yeah.
NBA, also from Cameroon. Was
Hmm.
not aware. How about that? But nonetheless, any final thoughts herein on this slate, Emac? You mentioned Karl Anthony Towns on the top end. Is that your favorite expensive play across all positions?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to land out. We'll have the surprise, surprise. We're going to have the cash game building blocks article. I think he's going to be the guy we want to get to. Um, he's it's tough on FanDuel, but I think we can do it on Yahoo, and definitely we can do it on DraftKings. Just as you mentioned, kind of that triple double upside potential in a game against Atlanta that is just not equipped to defend him. It's not going to be Alex Len. Alex Len will have 6 fouls. He will need to use them wisely.
I think that's a very significant projection. And 234.5 over under in that game. 3.5, minus 3.5 for Minnesota. Trae Young makes a ton of sense on the other side as well. Emac talked about him at the top. So not necessarily game stacking per se, but if this game were to stay close and come close to that total, those are your two options for being very much a part of the reason the game hits the total and stays close throughout. So may make sense to look at both of them on this slate. Pay attention to ownership projections. We have those over at Osmo.com. We have individual projection per player as well for points on the day. That's for all your major sites, of course. And then we do have the lineup builder and so much more behind the paywall. The deep dive, which then turns into the deeper dive with Adam and Dave at 5 p.m. on YouTube, 6 p.m. live before lock. You have the typical rotating cast of characters over there. And then, as Emac said, you have the NFL live before live for Monday Night Football. You also have Monday morning, the NBA Strategy Show, which follows in our wake right here on the DFS. Oh, wait, right. Find Emac on Twitter at EmacDFS. Find me at Dan Trafford. Now I can say, with that said, best of luck on Monday slate. Find the NBA Strategy Show in our wake right here on the DFS Early Bird.